Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the BSN Network podcast. Today is Monday, August 1st. Hope everybody's having a good day so far here today and had a good rest of their day yesterday. Hope everybody had a good weekend. It was a very exciting weekend. Always exciting this time of year with all the baseball that's on. Jets training camp. To all those who went out to training camp on Saturday, back together Saturday. Hopefully you enjoyed it. It looked like it was a good day. Very, very big crowd, so that's good to see. Jet fans are excited. They're pumped up for the season, which I'm one of those many Jet fans that is excited to see what this team can do. It is August. We've just gone out of July. August is going to be an exciting month. You got the trade deadline tomorrow, Tuesday, August 2nd. You got a ton of baseball continuing this month. You got round 2 of the Yankees Mets Subway Series. So a lot of good things coming up here with baseball, and obviously football, and the training camp will continue to ramp up as well. Yankees took a tough loss yesterday, losing 8-6 against a Royals team that has really struggled this year. Look, I'm not going to sit here. It was a tough loss. It was a rare blown save from Clay Holmes. I'm not going to sit here and, start to panic. The trade deadline is tomorrow. It's, within these next 48 hours, 24 to 48 hours. Cashman's going to have to make some moves. He's going to have to bring in some pitching, another bullpen arm, maybe another bat. We will see which route he goes. You're hearing reports that the Yankees are in on Brandon Drury, the utility man, which I think would be an excellent fit. But the Reds, he's in the middle of a career year. Reds have a lot of options. A lot of teams are interested in him. Brandon Drury was actually played for the Yankees a little bit. Didn't really go as planned. Come back, maybe it goes a little bit better for the New York Yankees. We will see. But they still take 2 or 3 against Kansas City, or 3 or 4 rather against Kansas City. I think that's the biggest thing people are missing. Yeah, it was a tough loss yesterday. Yeah, they blew it. But they still took 3 or 4. It's not like they lost 3 or 4 and they were going for the split yesterday. No, they still took 3 or 4. It was a bad Kansas City team. I think we all agree. I said that they should at least take 3 out of 4. Kansas City might steal a game just because that's going to happen, and they did yesterday. It was a tough performance from Clay Holmes. It's not reason to say that Clay Holmes stinks. No, he's not going to be perfect all year long. Look at Josh Hader, the best closer in baseball. He had 2 bad starts. Now he had 2 bad outings. Now his ERA is up to 4, but he's still a guy that a lot of teams would trust because just because 2 bad outings happen, it doesn't mean time to panic. So I'm not going to sit here and panic on Clay Holmes. I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, recently. Yeah, he's been struggling a little bit recently. He's going through some things. But I wouldn't sit here and say, oh, it's over. Clay Holmes stinks. Get rid of him. No, I wouldn't say that. So they'll be back in action today against Seattle. First of a 3-game set against the Mariners, in which Luis Castillo should pitch this series. A guy that the Yankees were looking for, they did not trade for. So I'm sure Castillo will go in with a little extra energy, and I'm sure the Yankees are going to go in and want to hit off of him to show that, look, we don't need Castillo. And maybe they bring in a Frankie Montes, and he dominates his way through. When Carlos Rodon, too, watched him last night. He's an option, maybe. Cashman, maybe, possibly. We will see. But Mets got the series sweep against the Marlins. They open up a 3-game set tonight in D.C. against the Nationals. Yankees open up a 3-game set tonight against the Mariners at home at Yankee Stadium to wrap up this 7-game homestand. All right, so a lot to get to today in the program. A lot, and I mean a lot. We're going to get to 2 topics in one, and we're going to get to another topic. So I mean that by saying that we're going to get to Joey Gallo and Juan Soto trade rumors in the first topic. So I'm going to talk about Gallo, and I'm going to talk about Soto in the first topic. I'm going to try to keep it 10-15 minutes for each guy. And then we're going to get to some Deshaun Watson news. Watson has been suspended 6 games due to sexual misconduct. So he will be out for 6 games this season. I'm going to try to leave the off-the-field issues out of it. I really want to talk about the impact that this has on the Cleveland Browns and where they're now at in terms of their quarterback situation, with it being their 3 guys being Jacoby Brissett, Josh Rosen, and Josh Dobbs. So they're in a really bad situation in Cleveland, and why they need to go after one quarterback right now. If I'm the Cleveland GM, you got to go after one guy right now. I'll tell you who that is. And we'll get to the New York sports update to finish things off. Like I said, Yankees against the Mariners today, Mets against the Nationals, both of those 3-game sets. Yankees look to get another series win before heading out to St. Louis for a 3-game set starting on Friday. And the Mets just got to look to take care of business, take at least 2 out of 3, and go into that 5-game set at Met Stadium. Citi Field. Go into that 5-game set at Citi Field against the Braves on a high note. Because if you want to win those games, you got to go into that series, roaring ready to go. That's the big thing. So we will see how all that plays out. Anyway, a lot to get to today on the program. As always, coming out of a weekend, there's always a ton of stuff going on. So with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So rumors are flying. Trade deadline is tomorrow, August 2nd. So tomorrow is going to be the big day. Like I said, I might be live streaming. I might be doing a special trade deadline live stream. I'm not sure exactly yet. I've kind of figured out how to do it, but I'm still not sure if I'm gonna. I might. We will see. But I would not bank on it. I might do it, but if I don't be surprised that I do. If I don't do a live stream, I'm still figuring out what I want to do with that. And I plan on doing the live stream maybe because if there is going to be any big moves, Soto gets traded, any of that. Obviously Yankees and Mets are going to be active. I think as we all expect. So I might be doing that. But anyway, that's besides the point. A lot of rumors have been flying. We're hearing rumors about Joey Gallo. We're hearing some rumors about Juan Soto. And at this point, it's just a matter of time. At this point, it's just a matter of teams calling in, teams making moves, and, the best deals coming across the table for the New York Yankees, whether that's going out for Frankie Montes, for the Nationals trying to deal Soto. But I got this news. I heard about this news yesterday, and I got the alert on my phone that says 3 teams are eyeing Joey Gallo. Brewers, Padres, and Rays are eyeing Joey Gallo. Now, it's funny that you hear the Padres are in that mix because the Padres are also in the mix for Soto. So it's almost like if they miss out on Soto, Joey Gallo is their other option in the outfield. But, like I said, Gallo, we're going to start with Gallo and go to Soto, like I said. Gallo has been in a situation with the New York Yankees. We got him last year at the trade deadline, and he's been really poor. I think, at this point I'm beating, what is that saying? Beating a dead horse or whatever, or, whatever it is. At this point I'm already saying things that everybody has already said, everybody already knows. So it might sound like the same stuff you've heard. But I have some numbers that I want to say that are just eye-popping, that of how bad Joey Gallo's been. And, you get the report that there's teams interested in Gallo, and then you hear a report that the Yankees might be asking for too much for Gallo. If I'm the New York Yankees and I'm Brian Cashman, you just got to get rid of him. You can't ask for too much. You can't try to get this big. Nobody's going to want to give up that much for a guy right now that's batting 159 on the season, and he's coming off a year in which he led the league in strikeouts, and he's 16th in baseball this year in strikeouts as well. And for a guy that, obviously has not been able to handle New York at all, the market. Now, that could be a little bit of it. I've always said that. Sometimes I try to be a glass half full guy, and I've tried to do that a little bit with Gallo. Last year, I tried to do it. I knew he was bad, but I was trying to just try to be that guy that maybe was hoping that he could try to turn around. He never has. Gallo's been awful. In his 140 games with the Yankees, he's had 421 at-bats, 67 hits, 25 home runs, 194 strikeouts, and he's had 46 RBIs. That's in 140 games. If that's a whole season and he plays 140 games and he strikes out 194 times, that's pretty ugly. Last year, he struck out 213 times. So, in his 140 games with the Yankees, it's been terrible. It's been awful. And combined last year between the Rangers and the Yankees, he had 213 strikeouts. That was worse in baseball. The only guy that had less, the next guy that had the second most strikeouts was Suarez. He had 171 Ks. So it was a really bad season last year. And the one thing I say about Gallo is, when we brought him in, via the trade deadline last year, I was excited. I loved the move. He was a lefty bat built for Yankee Stadium. He's gold glover in the outfield. He gave what the Yankees needed to, he gave us, what the Yankees needed, he brought to the table. He just has not done any of it. He's striking out way too much, and we knew he was going to strike out. I don't think anybody saw him striking out this much and his power numbers dropping as much as they did. He hasn't made any adjustments at the plate. He continues to swing under it. Pitchers continue to throw pitch high in the zone, upper in the zone to him. He continues to swing under it and a lot of times miss or pop it up. He's behind a lot of pitches. Some of the pitches that he does make contact on, they're, he's rolling over or he's popping up or he's flying out. But it's mainly been the strikeouts. He's striking out upwards to the 40 percentile. And that's terrible. And that's awful. And, I think the Yankees have to get rid of him. They have to. I think it's just a matter of where. I think they will get rid of him. It's just a matter of where. And even if it's just getting rid of him and maybe getting one prospect in return, whether that's, it's probably going to be a lower grade prospect. A team's not going to give up a top 5 prospect for a guy right now that's batting 159. But in terms of, just in terms of the overall, just in terms of, what he's done as a Yankee, I think a lot of it is, it's the big market. And I think a lot of, and Gallo, he's not a bad guy. He signs autographs for fans. And that's the one thing that's tough is he's not a bad guy. Like, he's signing autographs, all that stuff. He just has not been able to succeed in the big market. And I think that's where the Yankees might be telling these other teams, look, he has not succeeded here in a big market. Maybe if he goes to Tampa, he might succeed. If he goes to a team like the Brewers, he might succeed. A lower grade team that doesn't get much media attention. A team like the Padres, they get a lot of media attention just because of the fact that they are Machado, Tatis, but it's not like a New York market, per se. I mean, Luke Voigt's there right now. He's struggled, I don't want to go down the Voigt road. He had an interesting career with the Yankees. But I think a lot of it could be, too, that, Gallo just struggled in the big market. And we saw that. Sonny Gray was the guy. Sonny Gray was a guy where he was great with the A's, was excellent, was, very good pitcher, and goes to the Yankees, falls apart. When goes to the Reds, now he's with the Twins, he's pitching very good. I mean, he's a very good pitcher, right? He's a small market pitcher. Reds are a small market. Twins are a small market. He's succeeding in the small markets. Guys, there's small market guys out there. There's also guys that are big market players. They love the bright lights. So Gallo seems to be that guy that's small market. So I do think if he goes to another team, he might be able to make a little bit of an impact just because of the fact that it's not going to be playing in New York City. And the Texas Rangers aren't getting much media coverage. I know Dallas Cowboys are, Dallas sports in general might be, but the Texas Rangers aren't a team that everybody says, oh, a lot of pressure on that. No, they haven't really been a playoff team. They haven't had many winning seasons recently. They're a team that, it doesn't get much media coverage. So Gallo succeeded there. I think a lot of it could be the New York, the big market too. But Gallo's tenure as a Yankee have been terrible, and there's no other way to put it. So I want to just get to some stats because some of them are eye-popping. Like I said, I don't want to sound like I'm, crushing him. I kind of am, but I just want to give you numbers of how bad he's been because he's been terrible, and the Yankees need to get rid of him. They have to. And I think for the Yankees, the most important thing is just get him off the roster. You don't need to get a whole bunch in return. If he goes elsewhere and he does well, good for him. We don't need him. We got Benintendi. We already, Judge is in the middle of an historic season. He just continues to hit a home run after another. 42 homers on the year, on pace for 67. A guy that, he very well might, if he continues this pace, he might break Roger Maris's record. If he really continues the hot pace, maybe he'll crack 70 and get up there now or Bonds. I know I'm thinking way ahead now, but it's the truth. That's how good Judge has been this year. We don't need Gallo. So just get rid of him. Just get rid of him. And don't ask for much in return. Send him over to Tampa, Milwaukee, or whatever. If you want to trade it, if you don't want to trade him within the division, then I'm sure a team like Milwaukee, San Diego, I know, is a team that is in on Soto. If they miss out on Soto, maybe Gallo is their other option. Maybe you could wait out on that. We will see. Whatever the case is, he can't be a Yankee after tomorrow. That's the big thing. So 2021 with the Rangers. 95 games with the Rangers in 2021. He had 310 at-bats, 69 hits, 25 home runs, 125 strikeouts, and 55 RBIs. 2021-2022 with the Yankees, 140 games. This is combined last year and this season. 140 games with the Yankees, 421 at-bats, 67 hits, 25 home runs, 194 Ks, 46 RBIs. So in 95 games, he had 25 home runs. In 140 games with the Yankees, he has 25 home runs. Power numbers are not there. The power numbers are not there. He has 67 hits in 140 games with the Yankees. 95 games last year with Texas. By the way, he was an all-star and he was in the home run derby. He had 69 hits. So he has less hits in 140 games with the Yankees than he did in 95 games with the Rangers. I think that's eye-popping. 194 strikeouts. That was combined. That's just terrible. That's 319 strikeouts over the past 2 seasons. Over half with the Yankees, and that's been 194. So batting average when traded, 223, and he ended the season last year with a 199 batting average. So it shows you how much it dropped. With the Yankees in 2021, he batted 160, and so far with 2022, he's batted 159. So he's actually worse this year. His on-base percentage has dropped all the way down to 282. That's been something that Gallo has always been good at, getting on base. His on-base percentage is 282. So he's not even getting on base at a high clip. Judge has 42 home runs this year. Gallo has 37 hits. So Judge has more home runs than Gallo does hits. Carpenter has 15 home runs. He joined the team May 26th. He has 41 games. 36 RBIs. Gallo has 24 RBIs. So that just shows you Carpenter has more RBIs in 41 games than Gallo does this year. And he joined the team May 26th. Now, to be fair, Carpenter has absolutely lit it up. So, there's a lot of guys out there, I'm sure, that maybe are struggling or maybe have been on the IL a lot that have less RBIs than Carpenter because Carpenter's just been tearing it up. But it is pretty crazy to see that a guy that was so highly touted coming at the deadline has less RBIs than a guy that joined the team, not even on opening day. So 2021, he led the league with 213 strikeouts. 2022, this year, he's 16th in the league with 106 strikeouts. So over the past 2 seasons, like I said, 319 Ks, over half with the Yankees. 194 of those have been with the Yankees. 2021, Gallo had the second worst batting average in all of baseball, 199. Suarez had the worst batting average, 198. So one tick below Gallo. Now, Gallo had more strikeouts. So Gallo had 213 strikeouts. Suarez had 171. So Gallo was just 1% away from having the worst batting average in baseball last year and having the most strikeouts in baseball last year. Those are 2 categories you do not want to be anywhere near. And Gallo has been near those. So those are just some numbers, Joey Gallo. I think the things that stand out to me, 42 home runs by Judge, which is wild, and 37 hits by Gallo. That's bad. The strikeouts, over the past 2 seasons, he has struck out 319 times. Just put that into perspective. 2 seasons, 319 strikeouts. And by the way, you put that into 140 plus 95, that's 314 strikeouts. And hold on. 140 plus 95. Is that 235 games? 235 games, 319 strikeouts. That's way over a strikeout per game. So that's just how bad Joey Gallo's been. So I know I'm beating a guy that's already been beaten down, but the numbers show you Yankees got to get rid of Gallo. And at the end of the day, I think they will. I think it's just a matter of who at this point, whether that's the Rays, whether that's the Brewers. And very well, Gallo might be a guy that just succeeds in the small market. There's guys out there that are that. And like I said, there's guys too, like I said earlier, that excel in the big market and don't succeed in the small markets. There's guys that love the bright lights, and we will see. There's guys that shy away from the bright lights and are great on small names teams. And there's guys that thrive in the bright lights and are struggle on small names teams. I mean, you see guys that struggle in the minor. Like Luis Heel. He's a guy that kind of struggled a little bit in the minor leagues, comes up to the majors and does great. Those are guys that are built for the bright lights. So there's certain guys out there. Anyway, so that's what I got for Joey Gallo. And I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. I can just imagine if Joey Gallo, like Game 7 of the ALCS, Yankees-Rays, Gallo steps up on the road, because obviously Yankees would be home, right? Game 7, tie game, top 9. Gallo steps up, Yankee Stadium, hits a home run for the Rays. If he did that, I think we'd all just kind of just sit there and just be like, wow. Because, you can't blame Cashman for trading for him if that does happen. Because, nobody wanted him here. But if that would happen, I could just envision it. It would be terrible. But anyway, we'll see. We shall see, I should say. Anyway, so now we're going to get to Juan Soto. Like I said, a little bit, try to do 10 minutes, Gallo, 10 minutes Soto. And then we're going to get to Deshaun Watson as well. So on to Soto here. Soto is down to 3 teams. Cardinals, Padres, and the Dodgers. It seems as if right now the Padres are the front runners behind the Cardinals and in the Dodgers. Although I will sit here and tell you that the Dodgers, if they got Soto, that might be the scariest team I have seen in a really long time. The Dodgers are already scary, but you add Juan Soto to the mix, that's a team right there that's pretty unstoppable, if you ask me. So we're going to start with the Padres, though. I'm going to read you these teams' outfields, and then I'm going to get you kind of read their outfields, where Soto might fit in, kind of give you Soto stats compared to what the outfield has done for these teams, and kind of just, in the end, tell you which fit is best for Juan Soto and where he should go. I apologize if I said Joey Gallo stats. Did I say? I don't know if I said Soto or Gallo. Anyway, Juan Soto stats, I'll give you his as well. All right, so we're going to start with the Padres. So the Padres outfield this year has been mainly Trent Grisham in center, Nomar Mazara in right, and Jurickson Profar in left. Nomar Mazara has come in, played pretty well. Jurickson Profar is a guy, he's a switch hitter. His batting, he's not an excellent hitter. Batting 246 this season. He's a guy with an on base. He's got a pretty high on base, 246 batting average, on base at 347. So he gets on base. He's not going to hit for power. But he's been in the league, veteran. Trent Grisham, now their outfield has some flexibility. It's lefty, and a switch hitter. So they have some flexibility. You add Juan Soto to the mix there, you're having 3 lefties and a switch hitter. So that definitely makes it challenging for other teams. Now, I do have to note, Trent Grisham, center fielder, has a 192 batting average this year. And that's second worst in baseball, only behind Max Muncy, who is batting 161 this season. And Muncy has been awful this year. Awful. Terrible. And due to the games played, Muncy does, on paper, have a worse batting average than Gallo just because he's played more games than Gallo. But Gallo does have worse, technically, with a 159. But Muncy has the worst. Second worst is Trent Grisham with a 192 batting average. So he's a guy that has had a really poor season batting and a guy that really could be used as a replacement if you move Mazara or Profar over and you slot Soto in. That could be a big addition there for the Padres. Now we go to the Dodgers. Now the Padres, and I say this about the Padres too, they're going to get Tatis back. And one thing I'll tell you about the Padres and why I think the Padres make a lot of sense is because they already have paid Tatis a lot of money. They've already given Machado a lot of money when he signed there in free agency. So it's not like they have to worry about Tatis' contract down the road and Soto. That was one thing. If the Yankees would have went out for Soto, they would have had to figure out, who do we either pay Judge or do we pay Soto? Because they're not going to be able to pay both, right? That's the big thing. Padres have already paid Tatis. They gave Machado all that money a couple years ago, and he's been great this season. And I don't like Machado, but I got to admit he's been great this season. You got to give it credit when credit's due. He's been excellent. All-star. He's been great. And he's really filled the void of Tatis not being in that lineup. So they don't have to worry about that down the road. That's one thing that the Padres do have the advantage of. Teams like the Cardinals, not so much, because they have a guy like a Dylan Carlson that he's not going to get Soto money, but he's a young guy. He's playing well. He's consistently out there. He's a guy that, if he continues to play well, he's going to want some money as well. Not going to get Soto money, but you will have to figure out, do you give a lot more to Soto and a lot less to Carlson? Do you up Carlson and give less to Soto? They'll have to figure it out. But that's what the Padres do have the advantage of over some of these teams. Now, the Dodgers, like I said, it's not even like the Dodgers really need outfield help. I mean, like I said, Soto too could be used a little bit as a DH, and you could move guys around into the DH spot. But the outfield right now for the Dodgers, it looks like Cody Bellinger, Mookie Betts, James Outman, and Trace Thompson. Now, it's funny because James Outman, now Chris Taylor, also left field, has been out there, but right now he's currently hurt. So he's a guy that when he's back out there, he's a solid option. Now, Soto mainly plays right. So Betts is going to be in right. Bellinger center. Bellinger can also play right. James Outman, by the way, hit his first home run against the Rockies in Colorado yesterday. And Trace Thompson, who's the brother of Klay Thompson, he's in right now. So they currently on paper have 3 right fielders. Now they've mixed that around and they've, shuffled it a little bit. Betts is mainly right. Bellinger can play center. He can also play right. He's been out there. Bellinger has really struggled. Betts can be a little bit flexible too. He's a veteran, been in the league. He's a guy that this year leads the team in home runs and has a batting average of 266, on base percentage of 342. So he's had a very nice season he's put together. If you have an outfield, though, that looks something like Betts, Chris Taylor, and Bellinger, and then Soto, or, something like that, that'd be great. I mean, and just adding Soto to a lineup. Forget about the outfield. Adding Soto to a lineup, because Bellinger's been very bad, and Bellinger's been in like a 3-year slump he's been in. He just has not been the same player since that MVP campaign that he did have. And he strikes out a lot, leads the team right now with 106 strikeouts on the season. Now, you just look at the Dodgers roster, though, and you look at a lineup that would look something like Betts, Freeman, Trey Turner, Soto. I mean, Justin Turner, Will Smith. I mean, Gavin Lux, who's been a nice addition. I mean, you look at that lineup, Freddie Freeman, like I mentioned. I mean, that is lethal. That is very, very lethal. And then you look at their pitching, and you got Julio Urias, who's got 103 strikeouts. He leads the team. You got Tony Gonsolin, who's been phenomenal. And you got Tyler Anderson, who's in the middle of career. You have 3 guys on your pitching staff that have below 3 ERA. Anderson, 2.61. Urias, 2.71. And Gonsolin, who's a Cy Young candidate in the National League, 2.41. So you have a very good pitching staff, and you have a very good defense, and you have a very good offense. If the Dodgers go out and strike a deal for Soto, I mean, that's scary. That is really, really scary. And the entire National League all of a sudden needs to be put on. I mean, the entire National League needs to automatically kind of be like, all right, everybody, like the Dodgers take a step forward to that title, everybody else takes a step back if they get Soto. I think out of all these teams, I think the Dodgers, not necessarily, Bellinger's been bad. He's been awful. Chris Taylor's solid, but he's not Soto. If you bring in Soto, that'd be good. Padres, I think, are more in need of Soto than the Dodgers are, but just in terms of what it would make, how much more lethal it would make your lineup, like to an already lethal lineup to add Soto, why not? If you're the Dodgers, why not? And then the Cardinals are the last team, and I think the Cardinals we've heard the most out of, but the Padres seem like they're the team that is willing to give up the most, it seems. They're the team that's kind of been most public about their offers, giving up, C.J. Abrams, who's already had some minor league or major league experience, giving up guys like that. With the Padres, we will see what all happens. But the Cardinals this season, Dylan Carlson in right, Corey Dickerson in left. You go Brennan Donovan in left, Lars Nootbaar in right, and Tyler O'Neill in left. And then Harrison Bader as well has been able to play a little bit as well out there. A very good outfielder. Offensively, not as great as some of these guys, but very good outfielder. Dylan Carlson's young. He's 23 years old. When you look at the outfield right now, Tyler O'Neill, 27, Carlson, 23, Donovan, 25, and Lars Nootbaar, 24. It's young. I mean, Bader, obviously, IL right now, but he's a guy, too, that's very solid for them in the outfield. Carlson being in right, if you bring in a guy like a Soto and you could find a way to maybe move Carlson. Soto's also played some left. Now, he prefers playing right. He's played right a lot. He could also play left field. I think that's something people don't realize. For the Dodgers' sake, for example, you could move Betts in right. You could put Betts in right. Chris Taylor can play just about anywhere, and then put Soto in left. And maybe rotate Taylor and Bellinger in center. Betts, too, is a veteran. He can play just about anywhere, too, in the outfield, I mean. Chris Taylor can play anywhere all over the field. He's a utility guy, and he's been a nice addition for them for a couple years now. But the Cardinals, in terms of youth, you look at their outfield. You could have an outfield that looks something like Carlson, Bader, Tyler O'Neill. You could, O'Neill struggled a little bit staying healthy this year. You add Soto to that mix. I mean, you have guys that are Soto's 23, Carlson's 23, and then you'd had Tyler O'Neill is also 27. So you have a lot of guys that are young. So I think that, is a big, big factor too. You have an outfield that's not only set up for the now, but it's also set up for the future. If you look at what the Cardinals could possibly bring to the table with the addition of Soto. Now, out of all these teams, like I've said, Soto, I think out of all the teams that, I think the Cardinals would be set up for the future. I think the Padres make the most sense, in my opinion. Just because of the fact that you got an outfield that has the second worst batting average in all of baseball. You'd have 2 young. I mean, I understand you have Carlson and Soto in St. Louis, but Carlson's not Tatis. He's good. He'll have a good career. He's not going to be as good as Tatis. You have Soto and Tatis, 2 guys that are going to probably be top 5, top 10 in this league for a very long time. I mean, that just sets you up for a bright future. And you have Machado, who's in the middle of a great year. You have Cronenworth. Yeah, that to a pitching staff that's led by Joe Musgrove. I mean, things could really get really, really interesting if he goes to San Diego. And I think for the Dodgers, the Dodgers need to just find a way to make sure that he's not to San Diego. Because if Soto goes to San Diego and he plays there for a long time, And they went. Now, here's the thing with the Dodgers. Like I said, out of all these teams, the team that would be affected the least on missing out on Soto is the Dodgers. Okay, without Soto, they're still one of the best teams in baseball. If they add Soto, they're just going to turn into an absolute juggernaut. I think that's all kind of what we can agree on this. I think the team that would really hurt without getting Soto is the Padres, because then they've been looking for outfield help, and also just in terms of that possibility of having him and Tatis being in that lineup for many years to come would be lethal for that team. To have somebody else to complement Tatis. Machado, Tatis, Soto, Cronenworth. I mean, that's a pretty good lineup if you ask me. Cardinals, I think, are one of those teams that, I think that, if they don't get Soto, they're still set up nicely. But, I mean, they are going to lose some pieces at the end of the year. Wainwright possibly retiring. We know Pujols and Molina. But they have Arenado. They have Goldschmidt. Two guys that are very good defensively and offensively. They're a team that could use Soto. But I think out of all these teams, it's the Padres. And especially when you look at their outfield and you look at a guy like a Trent Grisham, who's batting 192, which is second worst in baseball. So out of all these teams, who would I think Soto's going to go to? If anything, I think it's San Diego. Because I think San Diego's, there's rumors that they're going out, maybe making deals for Ohtani, might be looking to make deals for Soto. And they're a team that's already put an offer out there. So that they're willing to give up prospects. I mean, C.J. Abrams, one of their top prospects, a guy that a lot of people believe is going to be very good for a very long time, who's already had some MLB experience, he's a guy that they've offered up on that deal. And it seems like the Nationals want a little bit more. So the Padres have the prospects. They have they have some of the assets. Padres most in need. Cardinals in need, but will be okay without. And I think the Dodgers are just one of those teams that they just want to become an absolute juggernaut and just absolutely skyrocket their way into a World Series. So that's what I think, how I see this Soto thing playing out. Now, Soto's stats this year, he's played 100 games. He's got a batting average of 243, 20 home runs, RBI 45, OPS 878, on-base percentage of 403, which is just phenomenal. Slugging percentage of 475 and a WAR of 3.5. So a guy that's very, very good, and defensively too. And I think Soto, too, when people look at the batting average of 243, it's not great. 243 is not a great batting average. But I think a lot of people got to realize he doesn't have much protection in that lineup. Josh Bell's very good, but outside of him, that's why he's drawn so many walks this year, because he's a guy, and that's why he leads the team on base percentage. He's a guy that a lot of pitchers have kind of thrown, are pitching around him. And the Nationals brought in Nelson Cruz to be that guy. And Nelson Cruz hasn't been terrible, but he's not the player that he once was. He's not the player he once was. This season, he's got a 232 batting average, 360 on base percentage. He's not the player he once was. But Josh Bell's having a great year. Outside of him, there's not much protection around Soto. And I mean that by, and this is where baseball is truly a team sport. And I mean that by, Soto, a lot of times teams, when there's one elite player on a team, you sometimes see maybe their numbers drop off a little bit because there's not protection around them. Soto last season, throughout the course of over half the year, had Trey Turner still on the roster. He was a guy teams had to look out for. Josh Bell, too, they had to look out for. Now it's just Josh Bell and really nobody else, right? Through those years with that World Series, they had to watch out for Rendon. Trey Turner also. Zimmerman still at the time. Soto, you add into that mix. Soto now is really the only guy. So you see a lot more teams throwing around him. So I think you're going to see Soto's batting average increase and his overall hits and his overall, he's third on the Nationals right now in hits, only behind Bell and Cesar Hernandez. So I think you're going to see that stuff increase over time just because he'll have more protection. He goes to the Dodgers. Well, he's got protection all over the place. They got to figure out, Freddie Freeman. Okay, all right, we got Freddie Freeman. Oh, no, now you got to go pitch to Trey Turner. Trey Turner gets on. Oh, now you got to go pitch to Soto. Soto gets on. Oh, now we got to pitch to Mookie Betts, right? We're not going to be able to pitch around Soto. Teams can get away with pitching around, Soto now with the Nationals because outside of Soto, there's not, outside of Soto and Josh Bell, there's not many other players in that lineup I'm really scared for. You really think I'm scared of Mike Franco? You really think I'm scared of Nelson Cruz, who's older and not putting up the numbers that we're used to him putting up? To be fair, Nelson Cruz this season, his power numbers are not there. He has 8 home runs. Right? But for other teams, Padres, well, you're scared of Machado. You're not pitching around him. You're not going to pitch around Soto because then you might have to pitch to Machado. You go to the Dodgers, you're not going to have to pitch. You're not going to want to pitch around Betts or Soto because then you might have Betts coming up. And if he fits in the Cardinals, you're not going to want to pitch around Soto because you might have Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado coming up. So all these teams, I think, are going to help out Soto individually, and Soto's going to help out their team. So I think Soto, you're going to see skyrocket if he goes to another team because I think he's struggling a little bit this year, but I think that's because, or not struggling, he's not struggling this year. I shouldn't say that. His batting average is lower. And I think that's where I love, and I think batting average is a big stat. You know, when I put down my stats, my scorebook, I always put the player's name, where they're playing in the position, and then I put the batting average next to it. I don't put on base, all that stuff. I think batting average is big. And ERA too in baseball, but I've always said this in baseball and in baseball for batting average is big. Because I think batting average, that's how many times you're going to hit. If you're batting 190, well, you're going to hit every 1 out of 10 at-bats. Your goal as a hitter is to get hit, right? The 220, but I've always said this about batting average, though, is it could be skewed a little bit. If you're on a bad team, if you're a really good player on a bad team, you have no protection in that lineup, and teams are okay with pitching around you because there might be a guy that's coming up behind you that's batting 220, and they're not going to be scared of pitching to you, right? And I've always said that, too, with Soto now. Same thing with ERA. I love ERA, but if you have one bad start and you allow 6 runs, look at Josh Hader, for example. Guy's got an ERA now north of 4, just south of 5. He's a guy that is one of the best closers in baseball. He's had 2 bad outings. Now his ERA is all the way up. Prior to that, ERA below 2. So I've always said that about batting average ERA. I love it, but it can be skewed at times. So Soto, I would not look at the batting average much. I think it's going to increase because he's going to have more protection. So all these teams make sense for Juan Soto. And it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. So, Soto, and he said it yesterday, I think Soto's feeling like a lot of us. I mean, I think even as just a baseball fan, we just want to see what's going to happen with him. And I think you're really going to see the trade market, kind of blow up right after he gets traded. Because once he gets traded, a lot of teams, because a lot of teams I think are, even the final 3 teams. The finalists are Padres, Dodgers, Cardinals. I think there's also other teams that might just be kind of, all right, what are you willing to give up? They might have other ideas in mind of other players, but they're still keeping an eye on Soto just to see if something takes a turn. So we shall see. It should be very interesting. So that's what I got for Joey Gallo and the Juan Soto trade rumors. Looking forward to the deadline. He's playing against the Mets. Is today's final game as a National? Well, we'll find out. We'll find out because tomorrow, 7:05 Eastern game against the Mets. By that point, trade deadline's over. We will see what takes place with Soto. And Soto said, look, I just want to find out what's going to happen. I just want to find out whether I'm going to be playing here or there. And I kind of want to say this, too, about Soto is, a lot of people are focused on the contract, and it is a factor. But personally, in my opinion, I think Soto rejected that big deal because I genuinely think he wants to go somewhere where he's going to win. I truly believe that. Because if he was all about the money, he would have took that deal and been like, all right, I'll stay here in Nationals, and he's entering the prime of his career. He wants to win in the prime of his career. He doesn't want to waste his prime for the Nationals. Look at Trout all those years. And the Angels never built around him. He's loyal. Soto, I think a lot of people are saying, oh, he's greedy, he just wants the money. No, I truly think Soto wants to win. That's why he rejected that big contract from the Nationals. Because he doesn't want to just sit there, get paid a ton of money, and lose. He wants to win. He's already won a World Series, but he wants to win a lot more. And when you're entering the prime of your career and a team's just entering a rebuild that's probably going to last 3-4 years, you don't want to be a part of that. And I don't disagree with Soto. And you see where they're not protecting him in the lineup. It's only him, and that's basically it. And I know Josh Bell's had a great season, but outside of him, there's nobody else. So I think wherever Soto goes, you're going to see an increase. I'm going to leave it at that in his numbers and production. Anyway, that's what I got for Juan Soto and Joey Gallo. Now we shift gears to some football, and that's kind of been how things have rolled here. So we're gonna go into some football, and we've got some Deshaun Watson news to tell you about. So obviously Watson got signed this offseason by the Browns. Big deal, massive contract. And I said on the day that he signed, I think it's a good move if he doesn't get suspended. And depending on how long the suspension was, whether that was going to be a 10-game suspension, 6 games, 8 games, a full season, I think we all knew it wasn't going to be a full season. But Deshaun Watson today has officially been suspended 6 games by the NFL for sexual misconduct. So there's been many allegations against him. and whether or not the the NFL gave him the right suspension or not. A lot of people believe it should be longer, it should be shorter. The Calvin Ridley thing pops up. I'm not going to really, to be honest with you, that's not really something I'm fully focused on, is the length of the suspension. All I know is that he's 6 games suspended, and the Cleveland Browns are now set up in a position where they're in a really bad spot. So I'm not going to talk about really the off-the-field stuff. I'm going to talk about how this impacts the Browns football-wise. Because the Browns, this really, really impacts them in a negative way. So I've always said this in football. I've always said this. The first 4 weeks are big. First 4 or 5 weeks. Baseball, it's funny because the first 4 or 5 games mean really nothing. If you start off 2-3, doesn't mean you're going to lose the world. It doesn't mean you're not going to win it. It doesn't mean that your season's over. If you start off, look at the Yankees. They got off to a slow start and they have the best record in baseball right now. So I don't really think that, or they have best record in American League. I don't know if or Dodgers are now above. I don't know. Whatever. Best record in the American League. They still got off to a slow start, right? And it just shows you that baseball, it's different. Basketball, same thing. If you start off 0-3, it doesn't mean much. Hockey, same thing. Football, on the other hand, I've always said, first 4 weeks, the first week if you lose, that doesn't mean your season's over. Week 2, if you lose again, all right, now there's a sense of urgency. Week 3 is big because if you start off 0-3, most likely your season's over. But week 4 and 5 are big. And coming out of week 4 and 5, going into like week 6, a lot of times we know who's going to be in the conversation. You go into the season with your initial, all right, these are the teams that are going to be, these are the teams that are really going to be competing. These are the teams that are going to be on the outside looking in. And these might be the teams that might be one of those surprise teams. And then there's always those 4 or 5 teams that are going to be the laughingstock of the league. And sometimes that takes a turn and all that crazy stuff happens. But so 5 to 5th, by week 5, week 6, week 4 too, you get a lot of times a good feel of how the season's going. And I've always said this, you start off 1-4, your season's basically over. You start off 0-3, your season's basically over. You start off 2-5, your season's basically over. You're talking about the draft week 6 and week 7, you're getting ready for April, and that's all that happened. Believe me, I'm a Jet fan. I've been doing this for the past 5-6 years now, where every year by week 5, we're talking about the NFL draft, right? So that's kind of how it's been. So the fact that Deshaun Watson is now suspended for 6 games. The Cleveland Browns find themselves in a situation where before the season even starts, their season in a way is in jeopardy. Because you're going to ask Jacoby Brissett to go out and win you football games for the first 6 weeks of the season. And then Watson's going to come back, and his first 2 games back are going to be the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals, who were in the Super Bowl last year. The Browns find themselves in a situation which is really, really bad. And Nick Chubb now is going to have to become the focal point of the offense, and that might create issues for a wide receiver like Amari Cooper, a guy who signed in the offseason. His first 6 weeks of the season might be absolutely nothing, because you're going to have Jacoby Brissett as your starting quarterback. The Cleveland Browns find themselves in jeopardy before the season even started. And I don't want to be mean and say Jacoby Brissett's not good. There's no other way to put it. All of his years in Indiana, he's not good. He's not going to win you. He's not going to win you 6 games. Especially against some of these teams that they got to play. You think the Browns are going to beat the Chargers? You think Jacoby Brissett's going to outplay Justin Herbert? No. No, he's not. Jacoby Brissett stinks. And I don't want to be negative. I don't want to attack the guy, but he's not good. And when you went out and signed a guy like Deshaun Watson and gave him all of that money for him to be suspended the first 6 games, you look at this Browns season now and you go ahead and say, wow, we might miss the playoffs again. No matter how long or short Watson's suspended, it's 6 games now. Look at the situation we find themselves in. Let me just read you the 6 games. And like I said, it's not like they're playing the Bills, Packers, and all these different teams. And the Rams and stuff. But you have to remember, Jacoby Brissett's going to be their quarterback. And there's one guy that's still available that the Browns need to make the move. And that's Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, you cannot possibly sit here and tell me the Browns, who traded Baker Mayfield, which, by the way, I still have no issue with. A lot of people might say now, oh, they should have never traded Baker. No, I mean, I think, no, I don't disagree with the move for them trading him. Baker is not going to succeed in Cleveland all along. And it's just going to be interesting to see really how he does in Carolina. I don't disagree with them trading for him. A lot of people are like, oh, should have never traded away Baker. I don't really necessarily say, I don't necessarily disagree. I don't think there's a winner or a loser in that trade. I don't think there's a winner in that trade. To be honest with you. But in terms of the Browns here, so the Browns week 1 play against the Panthers. Week 2 they play against the Jets. Week 3 they play against the Steelers. Week 4 Falcons. Week 5 Chargers. Week 6 Patriots. Now, Week 7 is when Watson will return. He'll play the Ravens. That will be his first matchup back. And I just want to read you their schedule after that and just show you how tough it is. So, Week 1, the Panthers, that's winnable. But Jacoby Brissett's your quarterback. It's a winnable matchup. Definitely. But if Christian McCaffrey can get involved, and if Mayfield or Darnold, whoever's starting, could just put a competent performance out there, Panthers will win that game. Week 2, it's against the Jets. Look, and I'm not saying this because I'm a Jet fan. I think a lot of people, the Jets are an improved team. They're an improved team. Zach Wilson's better than Brissett. They have the quarterback advantage. Their defense is a lot better. Their offense is much improved. They're the better football team going into that game. And I stand by that. So that's going to be, I wouldn't necessarily say that's going to be on paper might be like, oh, we're playing the Jets. That's winnable. No, that's not really. Jets are much improved. Week 3 against the Steelers, maybe you catch the Steelers at the right time with Kenny Pickett, but it's an in-division matchup. You know how those are. They're tough, gritty. Mike Tomlin knows how to coach those games. He's got more experience. That's going to be tough for the Browns to win. Week 4 against Atlanta is the only game I could possibly foresee them winning. Even that Carolina game, I don't think they're going to win. Because they're also going on the road. It's week 1. There's going to be excitement. It's just I don't foresee them winning that. The only game on here I can foresee them maybe winning is the Falcons. Just because Marcus Mariota might be their quarterback. He's awful. And they're without Calvin Ridley. He's obviously suspended this entire year. Their defense isn't very good. Their offense has got many questions. They got issues. That's the only game I can foresee them winning. Also, by that point, it's probably not going to be a hostile road environment. At that point, who knows what the Falcons are going to look like. Week 5 is the Week 4 is the Chargers. I apologize. Week 5 is the Chargers. That will be impossible to win. They're not winning that game. And Week 6 is the Patriots. They're not winning that game. So, you look at this schedule. Panthers, probably a loss. Jets, probably a loss. Steelers, in division, tough, gritty. Tomlin knows how to coach those games. Probably a loss. Falcons, the only game on here I see them possibly winning. Panthers and Falcons are the only two. Those are the only 2 games. So at best, Browns start out 2-4. At worst, 1-5. I don't think they'll start out 0-6. I don't think they're that bad. Jacoby Brissett's bad. I think they're capable of beating the Falcons, especially if Nick Chubb can get that run game going against that defense. But that's that. So that's your 6 games that Watson's out. Now, when Watson comes back, it gets harder. He's got to meet the Ravens on the road, then Bengals, Dolphins, Bills, Buccaneers. Those are his first 4 games back, or 5 games. His first 5 games back, Ravens, Bengals, Dolphins, Bills, Buccaneers. Now, the Bengals game and the Dolphins game, there will be a bye week in between. So they'll play the Bengals at home, then there will be a bye week, then they'll get Miami. So going into their bye week, it's realistic to say the Browns go into their bye week 1-7, 2-6. It's a real possibility. And then they come out and play the Dolphins, and you know how I feel about the Dolphins, but we'll see at that point of the season where they're at. But we know the Bills are going to be really good. They got to go on the road in Buffalo. And then the Buccaneers, Tom Brady. So those are 2 losses. They might find themselves 3-8, 3-9. Then the Texans, that's going to be tough. You can beat them. But then you got the Browns and the Ravens again. Well, you're probably losing those games. Then the Saints, yeah, it's going to be a toss-up. Commanders, and at that point, you look at the Browns now, just because Watson suspended 6 games, and the fact that they gave him all this money and he's going to miss 6 games, you look at the Browns, they might be a 4-win team this year. I'll go through it game by game again. 0-1 against the Panthers. 0-2, 0-3, Jets, Steelers. Maybe I'll give them a win against the Falcons, 1-3. L, 1-4, 1-5, 1-6. 1-7, 2-8. I'll give him 2-7. 2-8, 2-9, 3-9, 3-10, 3-11, 3-12, 4-12. Yeah, 4-13, 5-12. That's very well could be their record. Even with Watson as their quarterback, I don't know if they're going to be able to. You're telling me they're going to be able to go on the road and beat Buffalo, go on the road and beat Baltimore? I mean, that's also going to be Watson's first game. So you know there's going to be a little bit of rust. There's going to be a little bit of struggle finding his receivers, getting on the same page in a game. And oh yeah, by the way, you're on the road. And you got to go back home and play Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, a young, hungry team who just got to the Super Bowl last year. And then you got to go on the road and play them again. So Browns find themselves in a really, really bad situation. And they put themselves in this position. They went out, gave Watson a ton of money with the risk of him missing games, whether that was going to be 6 games, 8 games, 12 games, a whole season. It's 6. I think 6 is enough to completely derail your season. And if I'm the Cleveland Browns and I'm the GM, I get on the phone right now with the San Francisco 49ers and say, what do you want for Jimmy G? And we'll give it to you. Let us have him. Because Jimmy G's a guy that knows how to win. He's not a flashy quarterback, but he knows how to win. He was 1 game away from making it to another Super Bowl. He's already gotten there in 2019, he led the Niners. Obviously, they lost to Kansas City, but he got there. I don't see them sniffing anywhere close to a Super Bowl with a season that's going to start with Jacoby Brissett. And what if he starts playing bad? Who are your options? Josh Rosen? What if he plays bad? Josh Dobbs? Not a good situation in Cleveland. Not at all. I'll tell you what, if they go out and get Jimmy G, they'll be in a position where that Panthers game, that's probably a win. That Jets game becomes much more winnable. Same thing with the Steelers. Same thing with the Falcons. Chargers going to be tough. You very well come out of that 6-game stretch with Jimmy G 4-2, 5-1, just by having that better quarterback. So it's Brown's choice. It's up to you. But if I'm the Cleveland Browns, I'm getting on the phone right now, and I'm telling the Niners, we'll give you whatever you want. Give us Jimmy G. We need him. Because Jacoby Brissett is just simply not good enough to go out and sustain somewhat of winning football for 6 games. And then when Watson comes back, he's got to play against the Ravens, the Bengals, Dolphins, Bills, Buccaneers. I mean, geez, you're looking at that 5-game stretch. That might be 1-4 too. You find yourselves, 3-12, 3-12, 4 whatever. I mean, it's bad. Bad situation in Cleveland. Just by this 6-game suspension. And look, this is the Browns front office. I mean, they went out and signed him. They knew the risk that they were taking, bringing in a guy who possibly could be suspended. And he's suspended, and now they find themselves in a really bad situation. All right, so that's what I got for the Browns and Joey Gallo, Juan Soto, and all that good stuff. Let's wrap things up here today on the program. Very good podcast today. Long one, a little bit of a longer one, but got a lot in, and tomorrow should be another packed one, depending on what goes on today, depending on what starts to go on tomorrow. Today and tomorrow, going to be a lot of news in baseball. I always say, got to keep all your notifications on with all the insiders and all around baseball. All right, so let's get to the baseball games today. You got the Marlins, Reds, Diamondbacks, Guardians, Twins, Tigers, Rangers, Orioles, Astros, Red Sox, Royals, White Sox, Padres, Rockies, and the Dodgers, Giants. Nationals, Mets tonight. Mets come into tonight's game 64-37. Nationals come into tonight's game 35-68. Mets have Max Scherzer on the mound. He's 6-2 with a 2.09 ERA. And the Nationals have Patrick Corbin on the mound. He's 4-14 with a 6.49 ERA. Over/under set at 8.5. Mets should absolutely dominate the Nationals tonight. You have Scherzer on the mound, and you have Patrick Corbin on the mound. He's been one of the worst pitchers in all of baseball this year, and the stats show. 7:05 Eastern, Mason, and SNY. Yankees Mariners tonight. Yankees come into tonight's game 69-34, looking for the big 70th win of the season. Mariners come into tonight's game 55-48. The Mariners will be without Julio Rodriguez as he got hit by a pitch, so he's got a wrist injury. So the young superstar will not be playing this series, but the Mariners still have a lot of pieces. Yankees got to come out and play some good baseball. We'll see. I mean, very possible by Game 3 of this series, rosters could look a little different for both teams if the Mariners make any more moves and if the Yankees make another move. The Mariners got Marco Gonzalez on the mound. He's 6-10 with a 3.66 ERA, and the Yankees have Domingo Germán on the mound. He's 0-1 with an 8.22 ERA, over-under set at 9, 7-5 Eastern. Yes, and Germán, to be fair, that first start was really poor, but his second start against the Mets was much better, and Yankees just didn't put any run support out there, but his second start was much better, so hopefully it looks a little bit more like that. As for fantasy baseball, my main league, I'm coming off of a win. I got the win, 412-340. Big day from my pitching yesterday. So I had 5 pitchers that went. Berrios started, Rodon started, Walker started, Gonsolin started. And Kenley Jansen came in relief. He had 8 points. My pitching yesterday gave me 97 points. Berrios 28, Rodon 36, Jansen 8, Walker 11, Gonsolin 14. And my starting lineup gave me 30. So my team absolutely exploded yesterday and played really well. So was able to secure the victory. I am now 13-2 on the season, still the 1 seed, and in the driver's seat right now. But going up against my opponent is 10-5. So they are a very good team as well. And they're actually the guy that I'm going up against this week is the guy that beat me last year in the postseason, in the finals rather. So he's got a good team. So looking to see if I can get a big win here. And I've got 3 starting pitchers going today: Scherzer, Logan Webb, and Tariq Skubal. And Vasquez, Gurriel, India, Bregman, Correa, Torres, Judge, Blackman, Arise, Vaughn, Carpenter, and Moncada is in my lineup today. Urshela's out. He was on the paternity list, so we'll see how long he's out for. And as for my other league, I'm currently moved to 12-3, coming off of a 374-201 win. And today I've got Gurriel, LeMahieu, Bregman, Torres, Crone, Soto, Merrifield, Blackman, Haraz, Brandon Drury, and Bobby Witt, who's day-to-day. His hand, he got hit yesterday, he got taken out of the game, if you remember. He just came off of an injury, then got taken out of the game. He got hit with a pitch, so we'll see how that is. And then Logan Webb and Michael Kopech are my pitchers. Like I said, in my main league, 3 pitchers: Scherzer, Webb, Skubal. Scherzer against the Nationals should be good. Webb against the Dodgers, that's going to be an interesting matchup. But Scherzer against the Nationals tonight, I expect a good outing from him. So we shall see how all that plays out. So anyway, that will do it for the podcast here today. A long one, about 58 minutes. Yeah, it was a long one. It was a lot of news, especially coming out of the weekend. So that will do it for the podcast here today. Enjoy the game tonight. If you're a Yankee fan, enjoy the game. If you're a Met fan, enjoy it. And if you're going out to Jets training camp today, I know today is day 2 of allowing fans. Enjoy it. Should be a good day. Pads are on today. So now you can really get a good gauge of who's, first team, second team, who's performing and all that stuff, running game, all that good stuff. You can really gauge the trenches a lot more with pads. So, and overall, just the intensity should be increased with pads. So, looking forward to that. We shall see how all that stuff plays out. So, that will do it for the podcast here today. As always, I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.